Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Independent City Council meeting. It's Tuesday, July 11th at 7:30 in the evening. Glad to see everybody made it here. Thanks so much.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
6:30.
What time did I say?
7:30.
Hey, you know,
How many years has it been?
I'm in Hawaiian time. No, that's middle of the ocean time.
Arizona or something.
I don't know, it's like, oh yeah, it's the other way. It's Arizona time. Okay, well, hey, we're here and there's daylight. Let the record show that everybody's here. And let's take a look at the minutes from the 27th. Do they meet with your approval?
Move to approve the minutes. Second.
The motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Public comment. We have a request to make a public comment today by Mr. Bowe. And good evening. Step right up to the microphone, please. And we have 3 or 4 minutes, please.
Cool. How much?
About 3 or 4.
Yeah, I'll rip through. Good. So I'm Jamie Bowe. I've lived here a long time, so yeah, we've been around a little under the vest. Sorry. Anyway, so I went down to the park here. I go down to the park every year, and I just noticed this booth and got to hand out the vendor. And I thought, well, 30 years ago, probably wouldn't have this discussion, but times have changed a bit. I thought, well, it doesn't look good. It's sensitive. Somebody has to say something. So I took some pictures and started doing a little research and right on this outline here is my logical construction of an argument I might make for why this is a good thing. But first I found in Western Days handbook there's some administrative structure to deal with this issue. So right off the bat I go, okay, but I don't do anything on full thought. So it's kind of now I think a matter of interpretation. Is this kind of thing includes that is intimidating or unsuitable, etc. So then I thought, okay, well, what's the problem? The images is Confederate battle flag. And in the last couple of years, it's kind of become a little in the news. You hear a lot about it. A lot of states are starting to pull it off the grounds, their license plates, etc. So I had some pictures. Is this image really tied to white supremacy, KKK? For better or for worse, it's fair or not, it is. It's part of their brand. So, well, okay, then I think I'm good fitting there. At least that's what based on my research. Am I crazy? Am I being too oversensitive? Like in Section D, Alabama, South Carolina, etc. They're all pulling this thing off their public places. Retailers are starting to pull it off their shelves, and they're in the business of making money. So they made this calculation that it's not profitable to carry this stuff. So, and then section down here, I just had Oregon's interesting history. It's a nasty little streak of racism unique to Oregon. Probably, I don't know if you know about it, but we used to have an exclusion law. And we're the only state to do it, so Oregon, we're the only ones that had it. And of course, it was overruled by the 14th Amendment. And we had like a high KKK membership in the 20s, again, the highest per capita in the country. Well, there we go, we're special. So then it gets down to then this discussion I had with the vendor. It was really a brief discussion within a minute, but I just, posed the question, like, why are you selling these? And, they're offensive, and I went back and forth, and he called me a snowflake, and I didn't know that was a thing. I said, this is offensive, and you're full of BS. He goes, well, I'm a snowflake. Okay, so the wife and I went back and had a beer and brew there. I love the snowflake comment. We researched it actually as a thing. I was insulted. So, okay, well, now I'm getting the idea of what this person's doing. I think what they're doing is they're selling white supremacy, a burrito of white supremacy wrapped in a tortilla of Southern heritage, if you will. And it's kind of the way I see it. So now, going forward with the Western Days Committee, we want to keep giving them the license to these people or a permit, like this buy-in from the council, see at least some recognition that this is, doesn't make the city look good.
Thank you for taking the time to come in. And, council members, I got this a little bit in advance, so I talked to the city manager. And we're going to have our city attorney, because it's this is an event that takes, the 4th of July is a city event that takes place in the city park. And there's some rules, there's some constitutional issues that we're going to need some advice on. I had some people approach me during the 4th of July, and I also had a chance to visit with the vendor, and I let them have my personal opinion, but we were not going to agree. And so what I've asked, unless there's objection, is we're going to have our city attorney take a look at what the parameters are, what we can and can't do. These kind of issues have come to the forefront. We are not alone in this. And so we're going to get our city attorney, it's going to take a little while to, they're working on some other stuff, but get back to us with what we can, what we can't do, what the future might hold. Unfortunately, we have some time before next year's 4th of July. Does that sound okay with everybody? Are we okay, Mr. Sim?
Yeah, we're just fine.
Thank you. This all communicated with the Western Days Committee.
Right, and some of them are sitting in the room tonight.
Yeah, at the end, you will, I mean, Western Days Commission is an arm of the city, so whatever you decide in terms of what is appropriate policy and not appropriate policy, they'll have to follow. But one, you'll have the legal discussion, and then you can have a policy discussion if you wish, based on what your choices are.
Yes, after having been on the Pop Festival Committee for many years, we had an issue like this with a vendor, and it wasn't politically based, but it was selling things that did not lend to the atmosphere that we were trying to create. And we used it as a prerogative of the committee to not invite that vendor back again. And when they applied, we told them very clearly what things were not appropriate. And again, we use the atmosphere that we're trying to create. This does not lend to it.
So we'll look forward to hearing that. And if you'll fill out one of the speaker cards with Karen, then she'll have a way to get hold of you.
Okay.
And so you can be kept informed.
Sure.
Thank you for taking the time to come visit with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And enjoy the evening. Councilors, what I'd like to do is, we do not have it on the agenda, but it seems like this would be an appropriate time. We have the folks from the Western Days who want to give an after action report, and I know they probably would not like to sit here for the whole evening. And so unless there's objection, I'm going to let them, at this point of the meeting, come forward and give us what happened. So please. Good evening and welcome to council.
Thank you for the time. As per your request, I'll keep it short and sweet here. Just to throw out some numbers to you guys, our attendance this year on the 3rd, paid attendance into the park after the gates opened was 7,268. And on the 4th was 17,410, which was right in line with our projections, being that the 4th of July was on a Tuesday night this year. People had to work Wednesday. We anticipated seeing a bigger showing on Hometown Day, which is what we saw. I would like to give a huge shout out to Sergeant Manuelos. A big win for us this year was the security presence in the park. It was unlike any other year I had ever seen before. He did an outstanding job with the resources that he had to use and the additional funding that we were able to secure for him. It made a huge presence in the park, which made for a very quiet event for us overall. Upcoming for the year, which we are looking forward to making some changes down there in the park. I had the opportunity to meet with Karen yesterday. We have a huge need for volunteers. I'm sure we all hear that every day with every event going on. So we have an action plan to recruit some volunteers, starting with an information meeting set here in August. And we've already pounded the pavement looking for some volunteers, and we have a few people on board that look like they're going to be an asset for us. We'd like to utilize those volunteers for different aspects down in the park. This year on the 3rd, I happen to be down there by myself, just certain circumstances that happen. It's too big an event to have one person in the park handling everything. It was very taxing and very tiring. So we're hoping to bring on some different committees to handle maybe some more festivity in the park, bringing in people to do some decorating to make it look more like the event that it needs to look like, but without volunteers. we can't do anything more than what we already have. So that's our focus this upcoming year, is working on getting more volunteers and making it a better event next year.
Well, on behalf of the council, I want to thank you and everyone associated, all that helped make it happen. As you and I spoke during the event, I have a little bit of personal knowledge, as many of the folks up here do, of what it takes to do that over a multitude of days. And I just really want to thank you. It is really wonderful to watch so many people having a good time in so many different ways in over so many days, and a park, almost 20,000 people for fireworks, and it's just,
A lot of fun. Tiring, but a lot of fun.
so thank you, and I hope you can have a restful evening.
Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. Mr. City Manager, I think, is there anybody else that has a public comment? I don't see anybody stepping forward. Mr. City Manager, it's up to you now.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. So just a few things on my list. As we do we're getting down to the home stretch on Indigo's Dark. We are now down to tent sites only. We've sold all the drive-in tent sites, car tent, and all the RV sites. So those are all booked in full. We are pretty close to break even already, and we're expecting a pretty good revenue stream yet off of vendors, the beer sales and the like. So we think we'll have a pretty good, financial outcome from the event, which is good. It's been a long haul, and people put a lot of work into it, and we're hoping that we're fully prepared and there'll be surprises. We just want to hope they're managed as well as possible. So it's been good. Anyway, that's ongoing. Indy Landing, Independence Landing, we're also getting down a little bit to the home stretch in terms of the public infrastructure work. We should, based on the schedule that we have in front of us now, see sidewalks and landscaping completed by the end of this month. Lot E, which is it's known as Lot E on our side, is the gravel parking lot that we have adjacent to the police department here that will be upgraded to a nicer public parking. Should be completed in August, as well as final lift of pavement and striping of the roads. And then finally, our contractor will take off for a short bit, come back in mid-September and finish the work in the park when all the events are done, so as not to interfere with the event planning that we have in place. So we're, most of the project is done, most of the money's been paid, and the work looks like it's coming to a satisfactory closing. So that's ongoing. So nothing to advise you as yet on the private side of things. We're still waiting on our final approval to go forward with basically kick off the contract, if you will, from the state. So the next few days, I will be away at OCCMA, and we will be having, one of the things I'll be facilitating a presentation, which will include a Rubio, and you'll see much of that presentation this evening that the city managers will be seeing. And it's just a discussion of community engagement, where we have been, where others that are doing this work in the valley are at, and just where that particular expertise is going and how that's developing, services cities throughout at least the valley and probably going statewide. We are, and feel free to interrupt me, I'm just going to slide through my list. So we are going on to the next steps of the branding project, which is we've had a meeting with between our parks master planners and our branding folks to marry the new brand with the trail program that we have in place and the signage program that we're calling out in our parks master plan. So we are going to begin developing a number of trail signs, basically trailhead signs, and some of the banners that we hope to put up on the new standards on Osprey Lane, since might as well occupy those standards with something. And so we'll start with some of those that you've seen in the branding package already. So that should give some color and some welcoming to that area, and certainly help with any future marketing and development of that site. And then as well as putting in the information for our trails, locations, information about those trails, etc. So we're moving that forward. So we are unfortunately wrapping up our services that we have with our two rare placements, Emily and Amani. We did, as I mentioned before, get renewed contracts from AmeriCorps on those seats. So Sean will be spending a fair amount of time together with, I think, Counselor, I'm not sure if who all's is in on some of the interviewing, but a couple of panels, I believe, for the two different positions. So that is ongoing. So we're excited to hopefully build on the progress we've made today. There's always going to be a little bit of a lag on the learning curve, but we think we can build it up and take it to the next level. So Sean has been working together with HIDA, I believe, and to bring in a downtown Airstream trailers. So that is you should see a lighted array of Airstream trailers come early October. Perfect timing to sort of continue on the summer season for some of our businesses downtown.
The Wally Bynum Airstream trailers, I remember when I was a kid, they all came for a national convention in Salem. Those are the silver things.
They're beautiful trailers. I looked at them the other day. They're way out of my price range, but they're beautiful. They are beautiful. They are beautiful trailers.
And I
So
remember
we'll have a
that.
city full of those. It is part of the national conference, right?
It's the Oregon.
They used to come to Pendleton as well.
There you go.
Or park in the big open grassy lot of the mental institution.
So we can't fit them on both sides of the street, but we will line them up on one anyway. It's a little tight downtown, but it should be quite the sight. They're all pulled in and parked, and they'll be here for a few days. So we hope they'll be hungry, and they'll have want to do some shopping or whatever. But
Can you give us the exact days?
Do you have the exact date right now?
We're looking at the first weekend in October, the 6th, 7th, 8th. I think it's that first full weekend. I'm pretty sure Friday, the 6th, through Sunday, the 8th.
Yeah, it should be a fun event. Looking forward to that. A little bit of operational information, but you should probably know this anyway. We're getting ready to start the process for an income survey, and the purpose of that is to try to qualify for some grant funds through community development block grants to the extent that they still exist, and hopefully will continue to exist. So we are starting that process. You need to, that's about enough information. Either the state of our income, our community's income hits a certain point, in which case we qualify, or doesn't, and we don't qualify. So we're hoping to be qualified in the program. This is a little bit of, I know it's been a little while, we haven't reported back to you in a while how this is going. We've attempted to implement the new marijuana regulations with respect to the business licenses. Frankly, it hasn't been very successful to this point. It's extremely difficult for these folks to pull together the information that we need. And so we've been meeting internally, the chief, myself, Karen, to see if, what we can do to make this process work a little better and get the information that you've asked for. But I think there's going to come a point where we're going to come back to you and say, we were going to suggest some amendments to the ordinance that you've adopted. In particular, when it comes to some of the background information that's being sought, it's very tricky for these folks. So we'll come back to you. We'll give you a more thorough report. But I just wanted to give you a heads up. We're giving the operations provisional okays to continue on doing what they do. They know they have to comply. They know they're waiting. They know we're waiting on us to sort of get our collective acts together. But I think right now we're pushing the ball too hard uphill to make this work. So we'll come back to you with a little more detailed report. But I just want to give you the heads up.
This doesn't reference the marijuana operation at all, does it? This is.
Well, are you talking about Spectre Road?
Uh-huh.
That has its own set of conditions.
Right, okay, so these are the downtown business registrations.
Well, this is any marijuana business at all, but this is just the resolution of the business license. The conditional approval, the approval that you gave to the Stryker Road facility comes loaded with its conditions that you approved, and it still has to comply with all of those, and it's not even started yet, so we'll have this resolved long before then. So
But what you're talking about, the problems being part of, is different than that or the same as?
Well, it's a different ordinance. So one of those
Okay.
land use approval, yeah, this is the actual nuisance, the business license ordinance that you adopted.
That's what I thought you said, I just wanted to check that.
Business license resolution, actually, at the end of the day.
When do you expect to come back to us?
We hope to have a meeting with all the parties probably in August. And so sometime, if we can get to Hansel, if we can get to yes quickly, or at least get to where we think yes ought to be, then we can come back to you with some proposed language as quickly as we can get the attorney to modify it. So probably towards the end of August, maybe early September is what we're looking at.
And which parties are you talking about having meetings with?
Well, one, we want to get some more information from OCC and OHA as to what is already required by them, so we get a better handle on that. What access they would, if any, give to us to that information. They're still in their own evolutionary process, and the OCC is a lot more forthcoming with liquor license information than they are with marijuana license information. So that's really sort of where we want to start working, find out what we can do to not have to recreate them all, if you will. At the same time, we want to sit down with the industry folks here in town and say, you're able to give us this pretty easily, but you're having troubles with this. Help us understand why, and let's see where we can get to yes. Because we know basically we think we have to understand what your intent is with all this. It's not to put them out of business, but it's certainly to have a solid batch of information, so if things go bad, we know where to go. So we just need to figure out how we can get to where you want to be a little more easily than we are right now.
I'm going to guess that we're probably not the only city dealing with things like this.
I'm sure you're right. The thing of it is we don't have a standard ordinance that any one of the cities has adopted, so we don't have, if somebody else comes to a solution, normally you go over to Little City, you dealt with this, tell me what you did so we can solve that one. We can't with this one because you were from, we drafted from scratch. So we're going to have to find our own creative solutions to the issues that we've created with this.
I take great caution in being very visible in all of these actions and communicate with all the different people that have expressed an interest by their presence at meetings.
I'm not sure I understand what you're telling me.
Well, you're talking about marijuana ordinances, correct?
Right.
We've had a number of people that have come to visit us during council meetings that, not just relative to Stryker Road, but marijuana as a whole, and good public notice needs to go out about those gatherings.
Yes, people, it won't be a secret. So, we recognize that this is, not something that we wanted to revisit, but frankly, we need to.
Would it make sense before you go to the attorney at $300 an hour to come to us and say, hey, here's the kind of stuff, could we change it like this and get the council approval before you go to the attorney?
And actually, that probably was what we were going to do anyway.
Okay.
So the attorney wasn't part of the plan that I laid out to you at this point. I think she's closer to 200 an hour.
Our new school superintendent also is from a state that has dealt with marijuana issues longer than Oregon has, and she might have some politicos that she could connect you with.
Yeah, again, this isn't really a political question. This is an operational issue. We're just trying to figure out how to get to yes, in a way that works for all parties. So we'll work it. We'll come back to you and describe in more detail what the issues are and what we'd like to consider in terms of changes. Okay.
Makes sense.
Speaking of the school superintendent, we do have a meeting scheduled for Monday with a couple of us, myself and a couple from our staff, and we'll go ahead and work on the all-hands meeting after that, but this is a sort of, she's just started this last Monday, so it was good to be able to get on her schedule quickly, but I figured we better do it during the summer before the kiddos come back, so she was very accommodating. So we're going to go grab a bite and just get to know each other. I think we have a lot of things that we want to talk about together. You're going to have a couple more items. I just wanted to sort of preview those, what this is about, just before the speakers come up. Rubio's coming up to give you just an update of where we are in the program. We'll give you a PowerPoint presentation, talk to that a little bit. Some of that will be things that you see a little bit, some of that will be new. But it's just so we've been a long time since we've reported to you about what's going on. with that effort, so it's gonna take a little bit of time if you're on that. And then the second item is similar, is we are getting, we have talked to you over time about wastewater projects that we have on the books and the capital improvement plan. We're getting close to where we're gonna start presenting you a financial package. We need to do a couple of things. One, we need to get you up to date, to speed with what the projects are about substantively, so you understand that. And so our engineer is gonna walk you through that. He has a presentation as well for that purpose. And we also have our financial advisor, John Peterson, here as well, and our engineer is Don Whitehead, back there. And John's over here in front. Did I get that right, Peterson? Yeah. Thank you, Peterson. He will give you a little bit of an overview where we're going, what are our options financially. And in the meantime, you will hear from us that we are working to start working on the rate study, because you need to understand how this all impacts on the rates as projected going forward. So that's what you're about to hear, and I just wanted to lay that groundwork for you. You're not going to be asked to do anything. You are going to be asked to question as much as you like, and this is your chance just to get caught up on what we're doing for future meetings. So we're going to come to you with a decision package here. Decision packages not too far future, at least with respect to wastewater. Okay?
Questions for the manager at this point?
A couple, going back to Independence Landing, do you have a sense of ballpark of when we'll be hearing from Boley or from the final approval on the current work that's being done?
Which work?
The sidewalks, the landscaping?
Yeah, end of the month, he said.
Yeah, I gave you that on the sidewalks.
Right,
in
but
July.
isn't there also an approval process that has to go through as well?
With the sidewalks and landscaping?
Uh-huh.
No. Our approval.
Your approval?
Our engineer has to accept the improvements as for the engineer, the contractor gets paid.
Okay, so then my question would be, once we have signed off on the sidewalks, the landscaping and so on,
We being the staff and the
we
engineer.
being the city, what other impediments are there or could there be to the developer beginning on their work?
Well, the only impediment is when you mention we're waiting on the bullying determination, so that's it.
Okay.
So that would be going back and forth with them, and so they operate, at their own pace. We can't, if there's something we can do to change that.
Are we looking at 6 months or?
I would hope much sooner, but, I hope within a month we should have, at least another response. We've had one response, we responded to that, and so we hope that their next response will be fairly short order, but
Okay.
I don't know.
So if somebody
We're as
asks.
impatient as you are, I assure you.
What?
We're as impatient as you are, I
Yes,
assure you.
but if somebody were to ask me about when will the work by the contractor start, I could comfortably say sometime in the fall.
No. I don't know is the correct answer, but the next round of guessing would be comfortably, would probably be spring. Hopefully would be late fall. We still have a whole round of planning and design to go through. We haven't gone through any of the planning process as yet.
Okay.
So we have a lot of buildings to look at, a lot of site to look at, a lot of infrastructure to look at, a lot of civil work to look at. So that hasn't happened yet. None of that work has been commissioned because we're all waiting on the final determination to go forward.
And that being the Boley determination.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Rubio, morning, afternoon, evening, howdy.
Howdy. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. I am Rubio Valladares, and I am the Community Engagement Officer, reporting of what I have been doing, the work that I've been doing here in the City of Independence. So the following report that I'm doing, it will capture some of the highlights of the work engaging the community of Independence. And I can say that building trust with our community is a 7-day-a-week commitment. And I mean, have chances to meet with some people on Sundays, on Saturdays, and so it is a very great moments that I have with the community. what we did in October was the Latino Mixer. And we had Maria Chavez Harrelson and John Harrelson. They were the moderators, and we had a great turnout. There were 45 people, professionals, and we have a conversation on demographics, education, and health with the Latino community. We used the OCF, Oregon Community Foundation. They did a whole research on the census, and we used that as a platform to talk about the numbers and what is happening with the Latino community in the state and in the nation. So that was a picture of them, the moderators, and there's another picture next. That was when we had all the people coming over and enjoying a small meal, and then we engaged into that conversation. The next thing that I have, this was our second annual Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead celebration. It's a cultural awareness event, and the first event was organized by Elena Peña and Sergeant Banuelos. And so I jumped in on the next one when I came in to work for you in August. And so I started to work with them, and we did our second event. I decided to, go ahead next, decided to put it in honor of Oscar Montemayor, and he's a professor with OSU. He encouraged a lot of leaders that go for higher education, and he passed away just about in October, close to November, so we did it in honor of him. He was a great leader that impacted many, many lives, people living independence and around the area. So it was a great fit for our event. The next one that I have is, this is a Mi Tierra project with Colonia Amistad. It's something that the interns did before, and I decided to step it up a little bit more. Next. And so we did doing a collaboration with FHTC, and what we did is, next, Seed to Supper curriculum provided by Miriam Cook-Fusher. And the Seed to Supper was able to teach adults how to grow their own food. And it's a very easy curriculum to follow. I have 7 active families, and what is interesting is that the parents were engaged. We were building the gardens for the parents, and within a week or two, the kids were asking me, like, where is our garden? We want our kids' garden. So it was a great impact, and now we're working with the kids' garden, so it's taking quite a bit. We're going to be working, the Colonia Amistad has part of the Ash Creek portion of it, so we're going to work with them, with the Watershed Council, to also work with that side of the Ash Creek, for them to build that, having some walking time and connection with the ocean. So that's what we're doing in there. The next one, we did 3 public forums, and so we talk about Sanctuary City and Inclusive City, and also we talk about some of the role of the local police on their Oregon law. In these public forums, we were talking about some of the factuals about Sanctuary City and the Oregon state law, and also Sergeant Banuelos was also accompanying me for all 3 forums that we did, and it was a great impact to have a local police to be able to articulate what local police is doing in Spanish, be able to make that connection. So it was a huge win for the trust with the police and the community to be able to enhance the safety. It was a great learning experience, and we did it in Colonia Amistad, St. Patrick's Catholic Church, and OCDC, which is right here along. So we did that, and that was a really great turnout. So what we're doing now, there's a lot of things that we're doing. The Latino Forum that just happened in June, it was a collaboration with Polk County, with Brent. I'm sure some of you know who he is. And the service providers, to be able to help out with the outreach. Over 50 people came, and it was really great to see them all engaged and be able to figure out how they can do a better outreach. The next one would be, so tomorrow I'll be heading out to Bend, and we're going to do the workshop. David's going to be there, and I have City of Tiger, Newburgh, Metro, and Woodburn. And my counterparts have been doing the same work, and we're going to do a whole workshop. And essentially, it's about engaging community capacity examples, building trust, and They will have different, each city will explain what they're doing in their own city, so they can see the differences. And some cities are bigger, like Metro, some cities are small, like Tiger, they're barely doing this. Woodburn has a high density of Latino community in there, so they will have a variety of examples. The next thing that we're doing is the STEM summer camp, and this is funded by United Way, and we're collaborating with the Central School District. We're gonna start on Monday, July 31st, and we're gonna go to Friday, August 4th. The kids that are going for second, third, and fourth grades will be able to have, and I would call it a stream. And stream meaning science, technology, reading, engineering, art, and math. And the reason is because collaborating with the library, it is very evident that the reading part is missing. And essentially, when you learn science, technology, and math, you need to do a lot of reading. So we encourage that for people to be more active with the library. And the library is doing amazing things on Mondays with Makerspace, with Clear Place Technology. So we're really leading the way in that. So essentially, this is going to be to stimulate the ideas of invention. If we get the kids to think about they can invent something and then they can sell it, then we're a successful summer camp. What else we're doing today? Festival Informativo. I am co-hosting with Northwest Seniors and Disability Center. We decided to use the Festival Informativo as providing resources for the families. And some of you might be aware of the triple squeeze in the financial sector, telling that a lot of growing families are supporting their kids, but also supporting the seniors that live with them. So we want to provide resources for the whole family and focusing on the seniors and see what kind of spaces they can have and what resources they can have, and talking about the hard conversations about making a plan for the funeral or things like that. So they are great collaborating with me, and we'll do it on September 10th from 12:30 to 3 p.m. And you're more than welcome to join us.
Will that be here?
Yes. The plan A would be to do it outside the parking lot, be able to have a kind of festival outside, and if it rains, in Oregon, we might do it inside, so we're prepping for both. So hopefully we do it outside. I'm doing the CERT in Espanol, so I talked with Kimber, and we are creating the CERT team in Spanish. And so I'm going to be shipped to Maryland to go and get the training by FEMA, that train the trainer. So I'll be able to do some trainings in that and collaborate with Kimber to have a community that is ready for disaster. And we'll do some events to integrate the efforts of both teams. We have a team who start the 18, and then we'll have another team that is Spanish driven, and we'll combine them together, and we'll have these multicultural CERT efforts to provide the services or be able to train people and also, by the way, they are doing training in sign language, which is very cool, and that's something that Kimber is really proud of, so we're leading the way on that as well. Next, so Mi Tierra project, like I was showing you, so we did the C2 Supper, and this is it's part of the community garden initiative. So this is a good pilot that we're going to do. It's going to take about 3 years to get this community up and running in a very efficient way, but it will be a good example and model to see how other community gardens will be around the areas, maybe Henry Hill, around the Mount Fair Park as well. So I'm working with a new intern to work those details out. And we'll have a more report to you when we have more of an idea of what community gardens we can have. So what we're doing right now, so the round table, we're working really hard to do that, and we're in the design stages. I was able to have a meeting last month, and they're going to create its own name. We're going to have their own vision and mission, and also the areas that really, the work of interest that they have is very interesting, because they really care about education, civic engagement, and really just to keep up with cultural relevance and enhance the community as a whole. And I have about 5 people right now that are committed, and I'm still inviting 3 other people. Trying to get a youth in there as well. We're trying to get other business owners as well to be able to be part of this, so we can have a good perspective from all kinds of directions. And that's what we're doing for the round table. And we're exploring the unknown. And what I mean by that is, what we're going to try to do is to create the space to create dialogue. And some of the things that I have, we're having a long discussion, is that to be able to have these intentional spaces, we want to invite professionals from all the sectors. And one of the kind of the unknown of it is that it's going to be used to have Spanish being the main communication venue. And one of the main reasons of that is to allow our local community that speaks Spanish to be able to connect with professionals in business and other people that are also speak Spanish as well. And they are able to, go ahead next. So they'll be able to make those connections and enhance the networking with the community. But we wanted to create an ambience for this. And so we're gonna have poetry, some poets there that's gonna be able to enjoy that in Spanish. And we're gonna have a guitarist that plays classical and traditional music. And also, we're gonna highlight what's happening in Independence. And we wanna invite the staff that is proficient in Spanish to also connect there. So that's the unknown, and I'll report back once we get it done and it starts flying. And we'll see how the networking works, and people will be able to say their opinion, if they like it, or if they wanna continue to do this, or if they want to go into a different direction. So that's what I have, and I'm collaborating with ICO, which is an Instituto Cultural Oregoniano. It's a Cultural Institute of Oregon, and Arturo Vargas, he's a person that has been active with this type of Latino mixers, and we would bring the dialogue to talk about the pushing questions of demographics, education, and health. And I think that's what I have for you.
Questions?
I have a couple questions. I think I heard somewhere that in Independence, about the Latino make up about 33% of our population.
37% solid, I believe.
Now, would that be in, let's say, ages up to 18? Would it be the same ratio? Does anybody know? Or is it higher, lower?
I don't remember the numbers exactly, but the district actually gave me their student population numbers, and it was definitely more than 37%, 45-ish,
Right.
probably total.
The other question I have is, have you got like free reign to do whatever you want to do? Or are you getting direction from somebody?
I'm definitely getting direction from the leaders over there.
Okay.
Additional questions? Thank you for taking the time to share with us.
Thank you.
Looks like you're doing great stuff.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay. So sewage.
Kind of tough.
Well,
I think the worst possible arrangement is to have you go last, because that usually just really drags on.
That's always bad, be number two.
What?
This is on TV, so you know. No good deed ever goes unpunished.
In your
That's what it's like.
package, you may have a draft version of the presentation I will be making, but we
Thank you.
got a couple of changes in there, and so I'll be standing up to everybody as we put in the PowerPoint.
Yeah, everybody has a you came up to your project. No, it's not an answer. Thank you, and let me properly welcome you to council.
Thank you.
I do appreciate
It's
it.
a pleasure to be here, and I want to see if we've got the updated PowerPoint presentation on the screen. I appreciate the opportunity to come and meet with you. For those of you who have sat through this in the past, my apologies. There's some repetition but this is a process that's been moving forward for 12 years, and now we're coming to some really some very specific improvements. For those of you who haven't been here, Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm sure this is going to be the highlight of your tenure as on the city council, this is the sewer presentation. I've been working with the city staff since 1993 on infrastructure projects, and most of that time I spent with the sewer system. So I have a special fondness for Independence because I've had an opportunity to see the city go through quite a transformation in population growth. And like I said, we're moving toward this for the last 12 years. There's some very important proposed capital improvements that I think are going to be necessary to take the city into the next 2 decades and beyond. So to begin with, if we go into the first slide, when we talk about the sewer system, this is just kind of a primer or review of the sewage system in Independence. It consists of the collection system of gravity pipes, and of course manholes, pump stations, and pressure lines that all pump to the wastewater treatment facility in Independence. Those are the lagoons, which are now in the middle of town. When they were first built, they were on the edge of town. We've grown around them. That's something to keep in mind. Go on to the next slide, and I'll come back to both of those facilities in a minute. As I mentioned, we've been spending the last 12 years, and we've been moving through a system of documents, and you're going to see 2 different wordings here for master planning documents. The first is wastewater master plan. That's where we take a look at it about every 10 to 20 years, and we forecast out the population growth. Here are the capacities of the different components of the system, and where are we going to begin to run out of capacity, where are we going to start seeing stresses or failures in the system. That was wrapped up in 2005, and we hit 3 key components, and you'll hear these tonight. First, we're running out of summer storage capacity. During the summertime, our permit does not allow us to discharge to the Willamette River, so all of the effluent to the ponds and the lagoons is stored between June 1st and November 1st, and nothing can be discharged. So we're running out of that storage capacity. Not surprising, those were built in 1974. The second is we're running out of treatment capacity, and that's the biological treatment. We're to the point now with population growth where we have so much of an organic load that we really have reached the limit of the ability of those lagoons to treat. We're not violating permit, but we knew we were headed to this point. And the third is there are key components of the collection system, not all of them, but a few of them, that are starting to reach their capacity, or they've been in service so long they need to be replaced. So that came out of that wastewater master plan, and that's where we were looking out ahead. DEQ said thank you for telling us about it. What they really require is that we do a facilities plan, and that's the term you see up there in green, the sanitary sewage facility plan. At that point, we go through and we do a very detailed analysis, and we look at several alternatives to address those problem areas. Cost, what's the benefit to the community, and then we move forward with a recommended solution. And that was adopted by resolution by the council in 2015. DEQ approved it, and we've been moving forward with that since then. So you'll hear me refer to the wastewater master plan and the facilities plan, and I just want to make sure that that clarification was there. Last comment before we move on to the other slides. If you look back up at the very top, the last time that we did a facilities plan where we really looked at doing some improvements was 1996, and that was all on the collection system. And if you were around here at that time, anytime we had a rainstorm, we had sewage bubbling out of the manholes, and
My basement.
that's in basements. As a result of that facilities plan, we did a citywide improvement, and we haven't had a spill out of the manholes since then. And so that just tells you, it's been 20 years. That's the horizon of a planning document.
Why does it say 2015? They're exactly the same, except one's an update, but the update came before the facilities plan in 2015. What am I missing?
Which update?
Yeah.
Oh, the update 96. What you don't see before that was that there was a earlier facilities plan that was written by another engineering company in the late 1980s.
No, but there's been another one written in 2015, right?
Yeah. And the 2015 one was addressing what was identified in the wastewater master plan.
Okay.
So the facilities plan is just where you drill into the specific improvements that come out of your master plan. So we were kind of into a whole new set of problems.
Don, the second facilities plan was not an update to the prior facilities plan.
Yeah, right.
It was a facilities plan that was spun by the master plan.
We had a whole new set of problems that we were looking at, so that's why we called it a new one. So, flipping on to the next slide, that's the collection system. That was the result of, and you can see the lagoons are in the center of it, and we have all the different basins and with the different colors. They all drain the one of 5 major pump stations, and that was reconfiguration that we did in 1998 as a result of a facilities plan update. But that's basic configuration is, again, the lagoons are in the center. On the next slide, you'll see the lagoons. We zoom in an aerial there. Right now, all of the pump stations come up to the center at the top of the picture, and they discharge to either cell number 1 or cell number 2, and then they move through sequentially into number 3, number 4. After about 30 days then, being in there where the microbes have been eating the organics, they go out to the chlorine contact chamber. We chlorinate it to kill the pathogens, disinfect it. Now, as of December, we dechlorinate that so that by the time it goes out to the river, we don't have any chlorine residual that might impact the river aquatics. And you can also see, just for reference, is that down, you see that blue line coming through City of Monmouth and Independence share an outfall to the river, so they come through and join ours and on out it goes. And again, those lagoons form 2 functions. One is the treatment, the organic treatment, and the other is the storage system. Next. So, just for population, and colors aren't my best efforts in terms of graphic display, but what I've tried to show, if you look in 2017, we have a population of 9,250. If you go back to 1995, which was the last, just prior to the last facilities plan, we had 4,800. So you can see we've had about a 90% increase, almost double, not quite double the population. If you go back to 1975, that was just the last time that the treatment plant was expanded, 3,262 people. So we're not quite 3 times that population. So we've gotten very good life out of the existing treatment facility when you look at those population numbers. And then on into the future, of course, we're growing at a rate of just shy of 2%, so it's going to get increasingly, the increase just accelerates. Next slide. So, as I mentioned, the 3 requirements, the storage in the summertime, so we looked at it, the facilities plan, and we said, it's time to change our approach. We can't keep building more and more lagoons. I'll show you in a minute that if we did, by the time we got to 20 years out from now, we would need 3 times the area of the lagoons. We'd really start to chase our tail on that one. So we investigated something that would benefit the community and just the overall valley, and that's to do spray irrigation in the summertime on agricultural fields. And the technical term at DEQ now is recycled water facility. We also looked at treatment options, and after looking at several of them, we're suggesting that in phase 2 we build a membrane bioreactor treatment plant. It's a much more compact, much more efficient process than in chemical treatments. And the third recommendation was to go after some of the critical collection system components. That includes a couple of pump stations, some of the gravity sewers, and some additional rehabilitation to try to keep on top of the stormwater that's getting into our sanitary system. So what am I referring to, or how bad is it with the summer storage? The lagoons were designed to provide us 52 million gallons of capacity. Right now, we're seeing flows in the order of 73 million gallons. And so for the last 5 years, we have had to release it early. So we notified DEQ in October, a couple times in September, that we're going to release early to the river. That is technically a violation of our permit. DEQ is aware that we're moving forward, and they have not placed any enforcement action on us. They've been gracious in that effect, but they have sent letters to us telling us that something has to be done. And you can see that as we move forward with the projected volumes, it increases not in a straight line, but exponentially. And so that's where we're looking at the spray irrigation. Treatment capacity, we've got 51 acres of lagoon surface, and with that treatment process, we're dependent on that surface to give us the oxygen exchange with the atmosphere and the microbes that do the work. And so there is a theoretical limit on what we can actually treat with that. And you look at what each person in town on average contributes to it. That lagoon surface can handle about between 8,420 people and 9,297. That's just running the numbers through. Right now, we got a population 9,250. As expected, we're right at that limit. We have not had violations on our permit, but we're on the cusp. So that's the other recommendation, is that we expand that capacity as the next phase. And then the third item there, as I mentioned, the pump station, or collection system rehab, and we do have several items in there. Riverview Pump Station is one, William Street is another, out by the lagoons, and a handful of other items. So in the collection system, this is a slide out of the master plan that was done in 2005, and that's where we did the capacity analysis. So there was a method to our madness when we said, okay, where are we going to do these improvements in the collection system? We have addressed some of them, and in the intervening 12 years, we have identified a couple more. So, as I said, I just wanted to point out there's some numbers behind this, and we do have a pretty good long-range plan. I mentioned the facilities plan. We go through in that facilities plan, and this is something that's required by DEQ, and that's why they have to approve it. And that's where we're saying this is the best technology, or this is the best, the most appropriate approach for the city to tackle problems that we're going to be facing. It's an engineering and planning document. We look at the current collection and treatment facilities. We evaluate alternatives, and then we do an analysis that looks at the most cost-effective and the most beneficial, environmentally appropriate to the community. And we typically are looking at a 20-year planning horizon for that. So, the three problems again. What came out of that facilities plan is we said we need to change our approach to swimmer storage. We can't keep building bigger lagoons. We recognize that it's a potential market, it's a benefit to agriculture. It's a market to industry. If we treat that stuff, there are some industries, we don't have any in Independence now, but there are some that could use that as processed water. It's treated clean enough for that. As we come into and change and add the membrane bioreactor treatment, we get such a clean effluent, and we get such a clean process that we could use that for irrigation in town, for parks, or landscaping in industrial areas. What that means to the city is you get a double win. That's potable water you don't have to develop. So rather than building big, more volume storage, we said let's change our approach, and that's why we're looking at spray irrigation. Treatment, we looked at, I'll just briefly show you the numbers on that. This is taken straight out of the facilities plan. The first three are, we looked at aerating the lagoons. We looked at coming in with an activated sludge or an oxidation ditch. Those are traditional plants that you see with the big clarifiers. And then we looked at two more recent technologies, the sequencing batch reactor or the membrane bioreactor. And we go ahead on the next slide, you'll see we estimated the cost to build them and operate them for 20 years. And you'll see at the very bottom, the one we're recommending is a membrane bioreactor. That's a little bit more than alternative number one, which is the lagoon aeration. In many ways, you could say that they're essentially the same cost. The MVR has some very significant advantages. I mentioned that it's cleaner effluent. It can be used in the future for irrigating in town and recycling the water. Probably the greatest benefit, though, is it can be developed in modules. So you don't have to build it all at once. And you'll see in the phasing plan, we're talking about building it and then matching it to the population growth. So those were the numbers behind it, and that's how it came out. So now you see the numbers, you see the methodology briefly. How do you actually implement that? You know, one approach, we've got about $20 million worth of capital improvements when you add up all those phases. One approach is to do it all at once, and we're suggesting that you not do that. Not only is it a big hit to the community, it also means that you run the risk of oversizing, and you're paying on that as the stuff is corroding and losing its useful life. So the first phase, and the most immediate, is to tackle that summer storage, which is developing the spray irrigation, and that is critical, as well as some of the collection system elements. The second is developing the first module of the MBR, the membrane bioreactor, and that means it would be operational in 2020. As I pointed out before, we're theoretically out of capacity, and that would be appropriate timing for that. But that means that we would start pursuing funding this summer on that. And then the third phase is looking out there and adding additional treatment. And that's, right now, we've said population projections say that you're going to need that in 2030. But that can be adjusted both in size and when you do it to match for the what actual population growth you realize. So we tried to phase this in a manner that it's affordable and also matches your population growth. So, last 3 slides for me. Here's the summary of the cost. The wastewater, recycled water facility, we have an estimated total cost of $3.9 million. The collection system improvements, and again, this is work that will be operational next, will be built next summer, operational 2019. Is an additional $3.3 million. That's $7.2 million total for this first phase. I just slid this in here so you got a visual of what we're talking about with the recycled water use. Right down the bottom, you can see the lagoons. You can see the Blount River over on the far right side. We're talking about pumping the treated, disinfected effluent during the summer up to agricultural properties just north of the city's UGB. And we've been in discussion with that property owner. Now, the alignment of that pipe getting up there, we've still got quite a bit of flexibility. This is the conceptual alignment right now. Next slide. Phase 2 then is to build the first module of the treatment expansion. And that would be, we estimate the cost to be $8.1 million for that. And then phase 3, to give you just a visual of what that looks like, go ahead to the picture. That's an MDR, and we're talking about something about double that size for the first phase. You can see it's a much smaller footprint than the lagoons. That's highly desirable too. Phase 3 then is expanding on the MDR, and again, that's to match whatever the population growth is. We're estimating right now, if you continue at the growth rate that you've been experiencing, that it would be an additional $5.1 billion in today's dollars. So that's the summary of the sewer system, the sewerage system in Independence, kind of the process we've gone to plan for it, some of the costs, and a recommended phasing approach. All of this has been presented in the past, but we're reaching the point now where how do we actually implement that? And I think that's where the next slide is for John to talk a little bit about the financial.
Any technical questions at this point?
Have you taken into account the cost per gallon, or however you do it, cost per cubic meter? I didn't see anything that talked about that, the ongoing cost.
For operation and
Sure.
We have that in the facilities plan. I don't know what that is off the top of my head.
Because it might be that one of them is really good and gives us this clean water that
Yeah.
nobody will want to drink. but it costs a whole lot.
And
So we gotta balance
if you
that.
go back to that table that had the dollars in it, I think we're back.
The 20 million one?
Yeah, if you look at, it's that one right there. Those, what you see over on the right-hand side is the present worth where we've taken future dollars and moved them back to today. And that includes the capital cost and the ongoing operation and maintenance for each of those. So what that represents is both.
Yeah, that's good.
So not only does it have least cost, or very close to it, but it has that ability to be modularized and built in, and it produces very, very clean.
And we may be able to monetize the product.
Hmm?
And we may be able to monetize the product.
Sure.
Yeah, that's right.
When you came up with that figure, did you plan on the module phasing in of those modules in that 18?
That figure is what it would take to construct all three phases.
And that will totally take, then we will no longer be using the lagoon system for claiming the water and just be for storage only?
At this point, what we've sized it, and that's a very important question, because right now those lagoons are out of capacity, but they still provide a tremendous amount of treatment. So getting rid of them means we would have to build much, much larger MDRs. And so we're not proposing at this point, that's certainly an option that would be considered with more money, to abandon those lagoons and then build much bigger treatment facilities. So what we're going to have.
So they'll work together?
It'll be a hybrid system.
Exactly.
Okay. And also you talked about how clean the water is that allowed to be discharged in the river at any time, or that we still have that restriction of discharging in the summer?
Another good point, because that's been a topic of discussion for over 25 years with DEQ, and the short answer is they won't allow us to discharge in the summer. So even though we're cleaner, we tried to push that, but the process to get that up the chain means we'd be plowing new ground, and I'm sure that's what we want to do.
I know that's a discussion that's been happening at the legislature with discharge, and because we're not the only people dealing with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would say, I know I've had, 30 years ago, when I was working with Monmouth on their expansion with the lagoons, and we had a discussion with DEQ, and at that point, they were saying maybe, and then they were saying absolutely no 10 years later, so. It's not to say that that won't happen in the future, but right now, we would be fighting that battle on our own.
Okay, let's keep moving. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to council.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. My name again is John Peterson. I work for Piper Jaffray in Portland, and have been the city's municipal advisor for a year and a few months, I suppose. But I've been in the public finance business for about 14 years and have advised on recycled water financings in the past. But I'm really just addressing this last bit in terms of how do we pay for this. We have on the slide financing alternatives, a couple of purposefully low interest alternatives, which are the Oregon Infrastructure Authority and some state revolving fund loans through the Department of Environmental Quality. In addition to just public market options, could we go to a direct borrowing from a bank or another financial institution, or could we offer bonds? And I guess the good news in the current environment, I think as long as I've been in this business, we've been telling people rates are going to go up. And they've gone up a couple times and always so far have come back down. So actually, right now, the Oregon Infrastructure Authority would carry a higher rate than what the city would get on either a bank loan or a bond. And the anticipated rate on a state revolving loan fund financing is somewhat lower than what we would anticipate with a bond. Although all of these things are moving pieces. Generally speaking, my experience is that if speed and certainty of execution is the priority, then typically you want to avoid the state and federal agencies. But if in fact lowest cost is the highest priority, then it makes sense to take a more measured approach, looking at all the potential options. And I think the city has done a very good job of exploring that. We had going back into late last fall at what the state agencies call a one-stop, where the various state funding sources will come and sit down with you and talk about what they can lend and how much it would cost. In fact, it wasn't just the state, I think we had a federal agency there as well. And at the time, it seemed like, certainly from the perspective of the folks, the agents on the side of the state funding agencies, they thought they would be able to provide grant support for the project, which on a blended basis, when you add a grant, then the Oregon IFA is no longer the highest cost alternative. It becomes a very attractive alternative. As it has turned out, the City of Independence, possibly through good location, possibly through good management, however it has happened, the growth of the city has made it that by their metrics, we're not disadvantaged enough to get a grant, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, I mean, it's not bad to not be disadvantaged. At any rate, in the current market, an estimate from the DEQ representative was that their borrowing rate was in the range of 2% right now. I've just done a financing for a lower rated city through a bank that came in just under 260. You could expect a bond financing to be somewhere in that same range, depending on how long you were borrowing for. And then the Oregon IFA rate without a grant is at 378, so they're kind of a non-starter at the moment. But at any rate, my firm has expertise in getting the money you need, and I believe there's going to be additional discussion through the rate study of looking at what the future revenues are going to need to be in order to pay for the various phases of capital development.
Questions?
How soon do we need to put this all together?
We're going to next work on getting a rate study done. We're going out for proposals. Tomorrow I'm going to start putting that together, get proposals. We're hoping to have a completed rate study somewhere about the beginning of September. That is about in alignment with when DEQ would like us to have our agreements ready to go, ready to sign. So we'll know what we need and get a better projection of rates for your approval ahead of going for the final financing.
I suppose from my perspective, maybe the good news in all this is that the difference in interest rate between DEQ or a bank loan or a bond is relatively small. So that the financing cost at this point in time, the interest cost isn't a huge element of it. Really, it's just a matter of overall project cost and then how quickly do you get things done, how quickly do you repay.
I'm not sure who the right person to answer this is, and it may be each of you. I just would love a confirmation that, well, what we're looking at here is a normal, regular approach to doing sewers on a regular schedule. We're not an outlier here, that this is the regular way that things like this happen and the time schedules that they happen. We haven't missed anything. We're just moving along at a very thoughtful, prudent approach. Would that be a fair characterization? Do you see where I'm trying to go? I'm just looking for confirmation.
I'll start with this. I guess this is the norm. I've been in 8 cities. This is absolutely the normal approach to infrastructure financing that I've seen. We've had this, as Don has shared with you, we've had this in the plans, and the city council's had heads up from these needs for quite some time. It's just driven by the population growth. We have built this into our current rate work that was done a number of years ago. Now it's really kind of time to check. We have to do a little bit of checking to see, what has changed, and things have changed. We've grown at a different rate. Your revenue streams aren't always entirely what you expect them to be. So you're always making adjustments so that this rate study is now coming together to, okay, let's see what we've checked before versus where we need to be. We don't expect, to outrage you or shock you with this information. I think this is information that hopefully will be fairly consistent with everything you've seen in the past. And this is basically how planning and infrastructure planning is supposed to go in everything I've ever seen.
Sir?
Yeah, I add to that, I'd say that Independence has been very proactive. I think that's a credit to the staff and the council. The first slide I showed you where it had the timeline, if you went back to 1996, where that facilities plan update was done, that was done under duress. The city at that point was under a stipulation and final order, which meant that if it wasn't cleaned up by a certain time, that you would have faced increasing fines each time that you violated. And so the fact that since that was completed, that problem was taken care of, that we moved forward with master planning, facilities planning, and we've really lined up the dominoes in a very appropriate manner.
Great. Additional questions? Because I know staff will be available as you chew on this over the coming weeks, and we'll look forward to.
We'll be coming back to you both for the financing and for the rate work. So this is just really just to sort of get you a better understanding of what that conversation will be about.
Do you agree with the projected population growth over the next 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, 2% a year at this point in time is pretty reasonable. We grew 5% last year. So
2% is reasonable.
It's not on the high end, if that's
That's what I was thinking. Is it high enough? I mean, is 2% high enough? My thought was, is DEQ just a pushover thing where don't worry about what they say?
No, I mean, the population.
Well, the reason I ask is that you already told us we can't dump any more water out this summer, and yet our population is already at capacity. And we're not growing at 2%, we're growing higher than that.
DEQ is not a pushover. The only thing about DEQ is they.
What are they going to do, make us stop flushing? I mean,
yeah. Well, no, but they could in fact impose a building moratorium. And then all of a sudden your population goes to zero. That's not where we want to be.
Right, no, I agree with that.
So, but that's the outside risk. The other outside risk is they have the power and the authority to look at the system and make the improvements. I've been under that threat a couple of times in a couple other cities. So and that too is within, is not an unreasonable expectation from DEQ. They expect you to take responsibility as we are here.
Mm-hmm.
If you show that you're not.
My point was that
they don't take responsibility.
if we're looking at 2% and we're trying to base our timing on that,
2%.
Couldn't we be off by a factor of 100%?
Yeah, it is possible, but I think, 2% is played out historically pretty accurately. And going forward, you'll have bumps in that like we did last year.
Mm.
But at some point in time, you sort of run out of land and building opportunities as well, and the economy changes. So over the course of time, you see, hills and valleys. But that 2% has proven to be a fairly accurate past performance and probably a pretty good indicator of future performance. That is a higher rate than most other surrounding communities.
Additional questions at this time? We'll get the opportunity to have lots of sewer conversations. Okay, without objection. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, thank you. Any announcements that we need to make?
Yes. Guess what? There's an eclipse coming. And I just wanted to let you know that the Independence Downtown Association will be offering ghost walks during the eclipse at 5, 6, and 7 on Sunday night. And on Saturday, there will be a Total Eclipse of the Heart Fun Run, and it is to raise money to put AED devices in necessary places, and I believe one of those is in a police car for the City of Independence.
Good stuff. Great. Additional announcements.
Gloria, did you talk with John Cooper about bonds for, where are we on that?
He just returned from vacation on Monday. We spoke briefly about it. And then he followed up with Dawn to see if they had done their due diligence. It sounds to me like they're good to go. So now we'll be in contact with the underwriter.
It would be the city now, right?
Yeah.
Talking to the underwriter.
Right, yeah. So as long as Minet's ready to sign off, then we're good, great to go, and it sounds like they are.
Does everybody know what you're talking about?
Why don't you fill in the blank?
So the due diligence that was missing and they were unable to sign off on when we tried to do the refunding on their bonds last time
Let's go backwards. Which bonds are we talking about?
So it's the 2010 A and B. A is tax exempt, B is taxable bonds. So they've got two sets of bonds. Minet.
Thank you.
These are Minet bonds.
Thank you.
And, okay, they were uncomfortable with signing off on saying that all 100% of the bond proceeds at that time were not used for public use, or do you recall what that?
Yeah, I think that's.
I'm not sure on the terminology on
Well,
what that was.
There are a couple of things you'd want to have confirmed. One is that all of the tax exempt proceeds have been used for bona fide public purposes. There's a de minimis exception of a very small percentage that can go to other things. And then the other question would be whether or not all the proceeds had already been spent.
Right, okay.
Because there's a calculation, if there are any unspent proceeds, then inter-refunding, there's a way that those are treated for tax purposes and calculating the arbitrage yield on the new bonds in order to make sure that nobody's getting any unfair advantages over the IRS.
Right. So it was the private use part of it that they were unsure of. And so they engaged their attorney to do the research and all of that. And it sounds to me like they are, in fact, ready to sign off on
So things are moving forward the way they
Yes.
need to.
Yes.
That's the answer we needed.
You're
Yeah,
not ready for the test that we were about to finish?
well, to save us from the test, unless there's other announcements, somebody move to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
And done. We're done. Thank you. We can go home. And it's still light.